ever noticed how the same trader could look like a genius on a demo account, yet completely fall apart the moment real money is on the line? Same strategy, same charts, same person, but a different outcome. And here's the uncomfortable question I want to sit with you today. What actually changes? Because it's not the market, it's not the setup, it's not even the trader's ability. Something shifts inside us the moment pressure shows up. And if you've ever wondered why trading feels easy until it isn't, this episode is going to connect a lot of those dots. So, as you know, I've always believed that there are a lot of similarities between sports and trading. First of all, both are skills. And like any skill, they can be learned, they can be refined, they can be improved over time with consistent effort directed in the right way. And that direction is a very important part. You see, even when hitting the genetic lottery, no one is born a great athlete. And definitely no one is born a great trader. They are built. The second similarity is psychological. Now, despite there being a clear result at the end of the day, a win or a loss, or a profit and a loss in trading, the best athletes and the best traders are both process driven. They're not obsessed with the scoreboard in real time. Rather, they're focused on the execution, on repetition, on doing the right things consistently, regardless of how uncomfortable it may feel in the moment. But today, I want to zoom in on another part of the psychological side, and this is one that's not always talked about as much, mainly because it's not as glamorous. It's not about discipline. It's not about strategy. It's about something a lot more uncomfortable. We're talking about pressure, and we're talking about expectations. Now, I don't do this much, but the other day I was at a baby shower just waiting for everything to get set up, and I caught myself doing the good old doom scroll through the Instagram, and I came to this clip, this video, reel, whatever it was, by NFL great Tom Brady. And I'll actually play it for you in a second. But first, I do want to give you some context because what he was talking about might be misunderstood, especially if you've never been in that environment. So in the clip, he's going to mention practice squad players. And what he means by this is that these are players on the team, right, on a real life team, professional team, who practice against the starters. Like, they're not random people off the street or anything like that. These are highly skilled athletes, the best of the best of the best on the best. They just haven't made the leap to the full rosters or someone that actually gets in the game. Rather, they're on the practice squad, they're fighting for their position each and every day, and they're trying to prove to themselves and their coaches that they belong in the professional environment. So now that you understand that, let me share with you what Tom Brady had to say about these practice players.
I learned this, again, over a period of years, but there's 53 guys on the active roster. And there's now 15 guys on the practice squad. So there's 68 players. But those practice squad players are important because if anybody on the active roster gets hurt, they can get elevated to the squad. Well, there was times where these 15 guys would do really well in practice. And they'd be practicing and you'd be like a scout team receiver. And I saw this happen a lot. These scout team receivers would come in and practice with the scout team. And they do really well. And I'd be watching. I'm like, man, we got to get that guy. Like, let's get him up on offense. He's making a lot of plays. That's Darrelle Revis he's getting open on. Like, we got to do something. Then all of a sudden, we're like, hey, man, you're doing really well. You got to come over here and deal with the pressure of succeeding now that you have expectation. And these guys are like, they weren't prepared for it. So whatever we saw in practice against where there was not a lot of pressure, now, when they're put in a situation where there's an expectation for performance, they've never had to personally deal with that, and then they fail. And then what I realized was a lot of guys in those practice squads, they don't want to be elevated to the roster. They're very happy living this life where they could tell their family and friends, which I have no problem with that. Like, there's no problem. Like, you would just assume, though, that if you're on the practice squad, you'd want to be at the top. But the reality is a lot of guys don't want the pressure of dealing with top.
So there's been a lot of debate around this clip, and you guys know how the internet is, so that doesn't really surprise me at all. And I want to share my opinion briefly, but more importantly, talk to you about how this relates to trading. Now, full disclosure, I've never played in the NFL. I was a star receiver in high school. I was on the practice squad my first year playing football in college. So again, not the same as an NFL player, but I have seen this side before. I've also coached track and field for the last 20 years at a college level, so I know how athletes respond to pressure in all types of environment. And here's the truth, right? First and foremost, everyone is wired differently. Everyone handles pressure differently. We all feel nerves, right? But some people learn to harness it, and some people get swallowed by it. And this is where the parallel to trading really gets interesting, because in trading, your practice squad is pretty much your demo account. I guess everything leading up to that, but your demo account is that last step before going live. And I say that because when you're trading on a demo account, there are no real stakes, right? There's no real financial consequence, right? There's just execution. And what do we usually see? Well, we see traders perform a lot better on demo, including yours truly, who was a demo account king. And I'm telling you, to this day, I never lost a demo account trade, mainly because I didn't use a stop loss, so it never technically got stopped out. Anyway, when a trader is on a demo account, it seems like they always get cleaner entries. It seems like they always have more patience. There's less emotional interferences. And the question is why? And the answer is because the brain is calm, right? And you know what happens when the brain is calm? When it's calm, it's creative, right? It's not just scanning for danger. It's actually following the rules, doing the thing that we've tried to train it to do, or the things that it's supposed to do. But when traders go live, something happens, something switches, because nothing has changed, right? The trader is still the trader, the skill is still the skill, the strategy is still the strategy, but for some reason, performance seems to drop, and in many cases, it tends to drop dramatically. I should have had something in my hand that I could have dropped dramatically for the video. Anyway, when this happens, the first thing that traders do is what? Yeah, they assume the strategy is broken, but it really isn't. So what changed? Well, the thing that changed is the risk, right? When risk is introduced, the brain changes its state. We move from being calm, being logical, being creative, into a high alert biological stress response, which is a fancy word for fight, flight, or freeze. So now, instead of just going in and simply executing the plan, following the process, our brain is scanning for danger, right? What if I lose? What if this is the trade that wipes me out? What if I miss the move, right? And that shift alone changes our full behavior. That's when we start feeling things like freezing before an entry. We know we're supposed to take it, but we just can't push that button. This is jumping into trades too early. Oh my gosh, I'm supposed to wait for the close of the candle, but it's happening. Right? This is exiting winners too late, right? Price is supposed to get to our target, and it's about right here, and it starts going down a little bit, and you're like, I'm going to lose all my money. You take it out. It's moving stops further away, right? Price is going towards your stop loss, and you're afraid it's going to take you out of the trade, so you take it and you move it a little bit lower. It's all of those things. And the reason all of these things happen is because of something called the emotional override, right? This is where your emotions like fear and greed and even hope, they become so amplified in this environment under this pressure that they override any type of logic. You know the plan, you've rehearsed it, you've done it a million times, but for some reason now you can't follow it. And it's not because you forgot it, right? It's because in that moment you no longer feel safe following it. And the hard truth is this: we are wired for this, right? This is the whole caveman day type of thing, right? So it's not a lack of intelligence. It's not a lack of knowledge. In a way, it's not even your fault. It's your fault, but it's not your fault because we all have it in us, because it's biology. It's doing exactly what biology was designed to do, right? Protect you from that perceived threats. I'm pointing at my monitors in a trade that I'm in right now. So now that you know what it is, let's talk about how we can deal with it. In general, so not just a trading sense, but in a normal human being sense, there are lots of general tools that we can use. There are different breathing techniques, right? Box breathing is one of them. There's progressive muscle relaxation techniques. There's anxiety reappraisal and so forth and so on. But the one that I want to focus on, because it's the one that's most specific to trading, is going to be called stress inoculation. And the idea is simple. You rehearse high-stake scenarios in low-stake environments. That way your nervous system learns not to overreact when it matters most. So just to give you a sports example, because I haven't done enough of those, in American football, one of the most highly pressured positions to play is the kicker. Yes, it's the small, skinny person that doesn't really look like a football player, and they rarely hang around the other football players, and they don't really do much. It seems like a waste of space. But they're in a very unique situation, because if there's 1 second left on the clock, and if your team is down by 2, this one person gets to step on the field and make the game-winning play. And it's the only time in the sport where all of the attention, the thousands and thousands of fans, have their attention on one individual person. So as you can imagine, it is a very stressful situation. So we had to train our kickers to deal with these stressful situations. And one of the ways that our coaches used to do it is at the very end of practice, they would have the kicker line up and they would have to make a field goal. But here was the deal. If they missed that field goal, both the offense and both the defense, right, every other player on the team would have to do like 100 push-ups or like 5 laps of bear crawls or something really, really bad that we didn't want to do at the end of practice while we're wearing like 100 pounds of armor on us, right? And what this did was it put the pressure on the kicker, because the kicker knew, hey, if I mess this up, I've got 90 other people that are going to be very, very upset with me. So although it's not as high of a stake as like missing or trying to win the game for a team, there's a little bit of pressure there. And the idea was, hey, if we can get the kicker used to operating in this smaller pressure environment where it's not the end of the world, but there is something at stake, then he'll be more comfortable when they step on the field in a real game-winning situation and has to repeat the process. Now, going back to trading, I'll give you 2 examples. One is going to be a practical one, and the other one is going to be a little bit interesting and out there and possibly a little bit funny, but it worked really, really well. So, number 1, start small. One of my trading mentors always used to tell me something that stuck with me. He said, Akil, when you go live for the first time, have a position size so small that a win doesn't change your life and a loss doesn't really change your mood. And at the time, I ignored it. I went live and I sized up to the max. And then I lost a lot of money pretty quickly, and I experienced something that a lot of traders experience. We can call it emotional whiplash, which is the realization that it wasn't about the strategy, it was about me. Because as soon as I went live, after being the demo account king, I realized that I wasn't really trading against the charts anymore. I was trading against myself and my psychological demons, greed, fear. So what my mentor was actually trying to teach me was a smart way of progression. He was saying, don't go from a 0 pressure situation right away to a maximum pressure situation overnight. Step into it, dip a toe in the water, and then slowly slide the rest of your body in. And when you do that, something really powerful happens, right? You still get your real exposure to the market. You still get to gain your real experience in the market, but your focus, for the most part, stays on the process, because the emotional weight of losing or making a lot of money isn't really overwhelming to you, because there's not really much at stake. And over time, what your brain does is kind of recalibrates everything, and what used to feel very, very, very stressful just feels normal. Now, the second example, here's the fun one. And this one comes from actually a trader that I used to coach. So early on in this trader's journey, his wife really wasn't fully on board with him trading. She thought it was risky. Hey, this is a scam, or hey, you're just going to be a gambler. You know, stuff that we normally hear from partners or people that don't understand trading. And over time, right, as he invested himself in education and he worked and did everything he was supposed to do, he kind of proved to her that it wasn't. And in doing so, he earned a lot of her support. However, he was still struggling with consistency when he went live, like many of us do. So he did something drastic. He did something interesting. He created his own accountability. He said that every time he made a trading mistake, he had to take his wife out and buy her something. And I think she got to choose what that something is. Now, I want you to think about something for a second. That's real pressure. No, I'm not talking about the market pressure of taking good trades and not making mistakes. I'm talking about the personal pressure and the personal consequences that come with you making a promise to your wife saying you have to buy her something every time you make a mistake. And as you can imagine, something changed very, very quickly once he put himself in that position. Boom. No more mistakes. Now, why was that? Well, it was because the cost of his emotional decisions became immediate in a real way, right? And I'll tell you what, when we were catching up on his journey, he told me that the fear and also like the embarrassment of him needing to go out and buy his wife stuff like multiple times a week, that was harder than dealing with actually trading the market. So by the time that bet or whatever it was over and he was strictly trading live in the market, he was trading pressure free. He was like nothing compared to that. This is easy. So boom, it worked. So when we step back and we look at all of this, right, the pattern becomes pretty clear. Demo trading isn't fake trading because the execution is different. It's different because the nervous system isn't activated in the same way. Live trading isn't harder because the strategy changes. It's harder because you change under pressure. And that's the real core idea here. If you ever felt like you were two different traders, one trader on a demo account, but a completely different trader on a live account, you're not imagining it, right? The gap is the pressure. The gap is the expectation. The gap is that emotional load. The good news is it's not permanent. It's trainable. And remember, just like emotions, the goal isn't to eliminate the pressure. That's not necessarily something we have control over, but rather train ourselves to operate inside of it without losing control of the process. So to wrap things up, yes, it's completely normal to feel different between demo trading and live trading, but now you understand why it happens. And more importantly, you understand what to do about it. Because the solution isn't more indicators, the solution isn't another strategy. It's exposure to the markets, it's adaptation, and it's learning how to function when it actually matters. And if you can close that gap, that's where the consistency starts to show up. Not because the market changed, but because you did. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you have any experiences or things that you have done to work through this situation, feel free to share it with our community below. I love reading them, and it's a great way for others to learn. Also, if you're looking to learn, remember that our 2-day online trading workshop is coming up at the end of June. I haven't checked the recent stats, but I know we're getting close to that point where we're going to be shutting doors. So it's time to put up or shut up. Make sure you register now. I'll put a link in the description below, and I look forward to seeing you guys there. Until next time, plan your trade, trade your plan. Take care.